I was sitting in the passenger seat, thinking about what we were going to do at this Comic-Con, or why do you keep on calling it Comic-Con? One saying you don't know why, but enough of that. You're going along with a friend that you made a couple months ago. A friend that you called Foxin. It took you a week of calling him that for you to finally get his name. Foxin. Looking across from him, he was dressed up as a Sith. Mostly you never knew why you two liked the Sith, but it just felt good to be one of them. Not good like haha, like good, like it was in your soul. Something that always pried at you, tried to get you into doing stuff. Mostly, you ignored it. But Foxin never been to a Star Wars celebration. This year, you talked him into coming to this one. Seeing Foxin look at you, you asked the obvious question. So, what are we gonna do first when we get to this Star Wars collab celebration?
Well, first, Foxin said, I think I'm just gonna go grab some food, man, in all honesty. He conveyed.
You gave him a death glare. Like hell you're gonna leave me there all alone. This is the first year that you're coming to this. I'm not being left alone.
Foxin stared across at his friend, simply said, Well, I'm hungry, man. I mean, you realize how long it took me to get all this on? It took me... Foxin stops and thanks, leaving them in an awkward silence for about 10 to 12 seconds before answering. It took me a while. Look, I didn't have anything to eat this morning, and we're driving there and it's almost around lunchtime, man. Gotta get something.
Eat the protein bar that I keep in your glove compartment.
Foxin looks across, staring, as if his friend was really stupid. You realize it's probably melted by now, right?
I turn your compartment into an icebox, so don't ask me how it's even still frozen in there.
Foxin just looks at him and rolls his eyes. Still completely convinced that his friend's delusional.
Until he opened up the glove compartment to see that there was icicles forming in there.
Foxin gave it a sideways glance and said, I find it better not to question the... stuff like that in life. You'll just end up getting more confused than you know what to answer for.
Handing the protein bar to Foxin, you just relax back into your seat, enjoying the nice coldness of what the refrigerated glove compartment is giving out. It was nearly...
After a little while of driving, Foxin just sits there, staring across at his friend who's reclined back in the seat and decided just to relax while he drives and does pretty much all the work. But Fox doesn't care much. His good friend Imperial, which he doesn't know why he takes to that name, but just decided he'd roll with it. Sounded pretty cool at the time. This would be the first time he'd ever been to a Star Wars Comic-Con. He'd watched a lot of the Star Wars series, but he never really dove that deep into it until now. Part of him was really excited, another part of him was kind of nervous. And another part that was really small felt like a total nerd. But he digressed. As he was driving, he saw the Comic-Con out in the distance, approaching it at a decent speed, while at the same time he was fiddling with the package, or the wrap, that held the sweet, delicious candy bar. He just decided to stop thinking and just look at Imperial and wait. After what felt like maybe 12 to 20 minutes, they were finally there. He then looked to his right, directly at an Imperial, as he parked in, still realizing that he hadn't noticed as he had shut his eyes. So, he raised his hand, pulled out his finger, and then slammed it into his stomach to wake him up, and began viciously jabbing at him.
Ah, what the?
Hey, we're here.
If you weren't my friend, I would be choking you right now with my bare hands.
Kinky, Foxin said as he quickly got out of the front seat.
Oh, not like that, you pervert.
Foxin laughed out loud, shaking his head. Foxin knew he was being an idiot, and he didn't mind that fact. He just went around the back and into the trunk, and opened it up. There wasn't much room in the back seat, so he decided to shove the rest of the stuff in the back. He went, grabbed his backpack, pulled it out, and put it on his back. Whilst pulling out the really real, not really that real toy lightsaber that he also had, and a few badges that were bought online. He looked over and saw that Imperial was getting out of the car. So, he grabbed Imperial's bag, moved back, shut the trunk, moved around, took the bag, and placed it on the top of Imperial's head, and it fell down on the floor. He then went around the car and locked it, looked at Imperial, and said, "You coming?"
Yeah, I'm coming. I hope, sir, my mask wasn't broken when you dropped it.
Foxin just shook his head, still smiling to himself. Well, come on, that food isn't going to eat itself.
Do you always think of food?
I don't always think of food. I think of other things, he said, smiling deviously to himself.
Sometimes I don't get you.
He looked at him and said, "Well, Imperial, if you don't get me, I'm completely insane."
Same here. Let's just get to this Comic-Con.
As Imperial and Foxin began walking, they saw the front of Comic-Con. It was massive. There were tons and tons and tons of people about. Some people just wearing shirt, jeans, and shoes, and other casual attire, and others that were cosplaying.
Holy shit! Holy shit!
Believe
Look,
it.
there's Joe Grievous, Foxin.
Foxin looked over to confirm his suspicions. To be correct. It was indeed who Imperial said it was. Foxin just shrugged his shoulders and continued eating the bar that he had.
What are you saying, Foxin? That Joe Grievous ain't that impressive?
Foxin looked over at him and said, you don't want to get into that conversation with me, which is why I really don't care much about famous people. I mean, hey, it's pretty cool that Jay's here, but other than that, I really don't care much, he said.
Ah,
But the shit.
whatever. Let's just get you a burger.
Split.
Let's just get you a burger.
Finally, now we're talking, Foxin conveyed. Foxin and Imperial began walking. It didn't take long to get inside the Comic-Con. Once they had gotten in, he immediately snapped to the right, snapped his head to the left, saw something. Something that captivated his eyes, and began marching that way, leaving Imperial behind to think for himself.
It only took Imperial 1 minute to realize is where was Foxin. Oh, come on! After what I first said, let's go find that bugger. It took you about 5 minutes to find him. Eventually find him at a stand. Was an old man next to it.
Really good, man. Thanks. Oh, hey, Imperial. How you doing?
You left me around when I've told you to never leave me.
Well, you're here now, buddy, so no need to worry.
What even is this place?
Don't know. This guy has some pretty cool knickknacks lined up, so I thought I'd just give it a stop by. Foxin said. Looking up, both of them could see this old man. He seemed out of place somehow, as if he didn't belong. It was the most weird feeling. It was a foreign feeling. They never felt something like this before. It almost brought a sense of curiosity and cautiousness, as if the very air itself had suddenly turned and you could taste it. But Foxin just shrugged it off, deciding it was whatever. Foxin took one step up and said, "Well, how you doing, sir? You have anything, let's see what you got for sale here. Hey, take a look at this, Imperial," he said, waving his friend over.
What is it?
Well, I don't know, but it looks cool, he said, pointing at a jar that was filled with some kind of weird, murky yellow liquid of some kind, with some kind of weird animal inside.
What the fuck is that? Do you have any clue what it is, Foxin?
Oh no, I know what this is. It's a fetus jar. It's pretty cool.
The hell?
Nah, they would do this all the time in, like, science or whatever. They'd have, like, pig fetuses inside of glass jars, and it was filled with liquids. I don't get it, but they do it. Oh. He said, poking at the jar and just watching the liquid slosh around.
You look at the old man, seeing that he was not liking what your friend Foxin was doing. Foxin, I think you should stop what you're doing with the jar.
Foxin turned and looked at the old man, standing up immediately and apologizing. Sorry, sir, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to offend you in any way. I apologize. The old man turned and looked at Imperial and said, I see that we have someone who's brighter of the two, he said. The old man had a weird mask over his face that covered his voice and made it hollower somehow. So, what's your name? He said, pointing directly to Imperial.
Well, my friend over there calls me Imperial, but the name is Alexander L. Jimenez.
Well, Alex, I see you're the brightest of the two. Foxin immediately has a frown on his face, not liking this. Well, anyway, I must say, those are some interesting outfits you've chosen to partake in.
Thank you.
Tell me, what, say, if you were given an opportunity, if you were given something, would you jump to it immediately?
Playing an arm to your mask that covered your face with its T-shaped visor. You look back at the man. If this means adventure, I would never turn that down.
Foxin looks at his friend reluctantly, finding that him willing to jump the gun on this strange man was rather stupid, but shrugged his shoulders, seeing as, well, there was nothing else to do besides walk around for hours and check out random stuff and probably buy a few things. Maybe a shirt or two. So he just decided to see where this train went. So, willing to take an adventure, are we? He says. The old man says, leaning in, curious. Willing to take an adventure, even if it has great risk?
What? Are you gonna, give us something? I doubt that.
I am simply saying, I'm conveying my curiosity to you, young man. If you wish to have an adventure, would you take an adventure that would change your life, even if it would have substantial risk?
If you give me something that goes along with my costume and Foxin's, then yes.
Even if you would toil between life and death, would you still partake in this?
Oh, hell yes. Life here is too boring. So wake up, eat, do stuff, sleep, wake up, eat. It's like a cycle. So, yes, I would.
Foxin looks to his friend and rolls his eyes. He had to agree, to some level, life was boring and simple. I mean, simply waking up, watching internet videos, then at night making a bologna sandwich, jacking off, and going to bed. It was a routine that he, became comfortable of, yet had become kind of boring and bland. So, why not? He was willing to jump the gun just this once, see where the road took him.
It's fun.
So, I'd say I have two adventurers in front of me.
Yes, sir. Yes, you do. As soon as you stop talking, you see the old man reach for something underneath the counter of his stall, not knowing what it was, until he pulled out exact replica of two lightsabers, mostly dark and gray, not like the silverish gray, like military gray, like the Germans wear in World War II.
So, if you truly wish to give yourself in to the very depths of insanity, to fight, to toil against darkness and light itself, to fight, to see who and what will come on top. The second you grab these, your adventure shall begin.
Looking at Foxin. Even though that he could not see your face, you give him a shit-eating grin. A grin that will make the devil laugh for his money. I take your offer, sir. Reaching for the right lightsaber. Almost looking like the lightsaber that Darth Revan used to kill the Sith Emperor.
Foxin just stands there, shaking his head slowly, deciding he remembered he'd said he jumped the gun, so he said and vocalized it, fuck it, reached toward a lightsaber, and at the same time, they both grabbed it.
Without warning, everything started to fuzz. Unknowing what was going on, you looked at Foxin for the last second before passing out.
As the two began fading out, everything around them involved in darkness, they heard something, which would be the last thing from the world they left to the world they will now know. Though you take this path, though you walk this path between the forces of good and the forces of chaos themselves, there are two wolves that you will fight. One that is everything good, and another that is everything bad. The wolf that wins is the wolf you feed. Those were the last words that they had heard. And then, out of nowhere, they seemingly, well, the first one to wake up was Imperial.
Ah, hell. It feels like I've been hit by a freighter train. Foxin! Oh, my bags are still with me.
Imperial lunges to his bags and picks it up to inspect and see that everything was still there. Everything was still intact. And, if he could say, everything seemed better quality. He turned, looking left and right and which way, to find Foxin laying flat in the grass, just laying there. His backpack and the saber that he took from the old man laying there.
Reaching for the lightsaber from which fell out of Foxin's hand for some reason. Not wanting to let his friend's lightsaber get dirty in the mud. Because you could see there was a cloud forming. Don't know why a cloud was forming. The newsletter said it was going to be clear and not raining.
Everything around them in this forest, it just dawned on him. They were in a forest. They were in Comic-Con, and now they were in a forest in the middle of, well, God knew where at this point. There wasn't anything protruding past anything they could see. There was a few different things that were already spurring in his mind. 1, Foxin's passed out. 2, they're in the middle of somewhere, which is technically nowhere. 3, they have to find some evidence of life. Maybe they have to find, well, for first they have to get their bearings. Maybe that would be the best strategy. Or waking up his friend. Either way, they're out in the middle of the forest. It was about that time that Foxin began to stir. Fuck. Man. What happened? Foxin said as he slowly pushed himself up, placing a hand to his masked face. Oh, I feel like shit.
You got raped.
Foxin looked over and tilted his head and said, "By who? We're out in the middle of the woods. I mean, unless you're,
No.
Unless you're finally coming out of the closet."
No.
Foxin said, laughing.
No.
Foxin got on his feet, pushing himself up, grabbing his bag and slinging it over his shoulder, moving over, and very abruptly snatching the lightsaber he got out of his hand and said, "Alright, this is mine, and second, you got us into this shit."
A terrible time for me to laugh at this.
It is a terrible time. We got fucking drugged, somehow. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Oh, God.
And there's wolves made out of wood. And look, there's a dark wolf and a white wolf.
Foxin looked very perplexed as he turned around and looked, and, well, lo and behold, his friend wasn't insane. There was a wolf, seemingly constructed out of wood, staring. Its green, menacing eyes. The green eyes held nothing kind, held pure and a lustful, murderous hunger. It didn't take Foxin more than 2 seconds to realize it was gonna fucking eat them. Foxin sat there, wondering two things. How the fuck was he gonna fight this thing with seemingly nothing to fight it with? Well, probably the pocket knife in his bag. Or, how the fuck would they outrun it? He turned, looked at Imperial, and said, "So, any ideas, buddy? Since you got us into this mess, you better start thinking up something.
Maybe
Because if
these...
this wolf doesn't eat you, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you."
Maybe these things that we got from that old man are lightsabers.
Foxin immediately raised an eyebrow, and immediately thought his friend was completely retarded. Seemingly, he just decided to voice his thoughts. "Look, I don't know what mental disorder or whatever got to you, but you're a lost hope. I'm thinking of pushing you and running. So you better come up with something. Come up with it fast," Foxin said, seemingly laughing behind his eyes.
Oh, really? If I hit this button, it won't ignite into a lightsaber? Right before Foxin could say anything more, you clicked the button, and, well, there was a fucking bled red lightsaber right in front of you. You thought there was going to be heat coming off it, but no. Ooh, shiny!
Foxin stared. For the first time, Imperial had been right about something that was, in all honesty and all by rights, completely retarded. However, he was right. I mean, there being a wolf made of wood that was charging at them at this very moment, shouldn't be fuck. Foxin drew his attention back to the threat that was now charging at them with a very murderous intent. Foxin looked at the lightsaber he was holding, make sure it was pointed the right way, not at him. Not a good day to be disemboweled or losing his kids. Turned on the lightsaber and stared, getting ready.
Feel the power of the dark side. That was the last thing you said before charging right at the wolf.